Welcome to the first installment of the Extra Point, presented to you by Lee Crawler, with your hosts Brandon Hill and Luke Parsons, two men who love to sit down while they pee.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Extra Point. I am Brandon Hill, and this is my co-host Luke Parsons. Luke, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Just sitting down as I pee here.
Oh boy. Well, quite the introduction we received from our producer there. But everyone, welcome to the Extra Point. This is our new show in the XCFL network. It's kind of going to be like an NFL Live type show. We're going to follow breaking news. We're going to kind of bring you all the big time news happening around the XCFL. We'll handle the rumors. We got draft boards. We got all our different XCFL insiders on the show at different times. And we're going to kind of bring you a nice, fun little show to probably bi-weekly, I want to say, as soon as we can get them out to you. And hopefully you guys enjoy it. I'm excited, Luke, and let's kind of get right into it here, right off the bat. We're going to talk about a quarterback out in Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger. And my question I'm going to pose to you right off the bat, where does Big Ben stand all time among all the greats?
I mean, I got to put him in the conversation, but I don't think, ultimately, if you look at the rosters that he's had around him, I don't think that you can say that he's as good as, the Bradys, the Montanas, the Marinos. You even look at Aaron Rodgers, who's still doing his thing in the XCFL. I don't think that he's quite at that level, but I would say he's right below them, kind of maybe that second tier elite.
Yeah, absolutely. He's won his fair share of Super Bowls. He showed that clutch trait that many of these great quarterbacks have, led the game-winning drives. You remember the game against the Super Bowl against the Cardinals, the touchdown pass to Santonio Holmes in the corner of the end zone. He's a big physical quarterback that is, he's like you said, he's been on some very successful teams. But I think what I'm most impressed about with Ben Roethlisberger is that rookie season. I think he only lost one game or came in and went undefeated, taking over for Tommy Maddox or something like that. Just an incredible, to be able to come in as a college rookie and take over a huddle of full-grown men and kind of get him to lead or kind of get him to follow you into battle is not something that's easy to do, and not many people can do it.
For the record, I actually played against Big Ben in high school, and he was a full-grown man even then. So
you were on the bench watching him throw the football around?
No, I was in the stands. Actually.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, okay.
Water boy.
Even worse. Yeah, there you go.
Water
even worse.
Boy.
But let's go ahead here and take a look at some of the Big Ben's accolades throughout his XCFL career. He's won 3 Super Bowls. Most recently, I believe he won season 10 of the XCFL. He's thrown for 63,939 passing yards, which puts him 5th all-time on the list. He's 6th all-time in touchdown passes. And so far this season, Big Ben is struggling. I know Pittsburgh's kind of got a little quarterback shuffle going on between Big Ben, Mason Rudolph, and Connor Cook. But so far, Big Ben he's thrown 10 touchdowns and 17 interceptions, thrown for 1,951 yards, and he's been sacked 14 times. It is kind of a little farewell tour. It kind of helps. He was benched early in the season, but then the guy he was benched for ended up getting hurt. So his farewell tour kind of continued, even though the Steelers were kind of ready to get rid of him. Do you think, how's it? Is this a good final season for Ben, or what's your take on it?
Truthfully, this is one of those situations where I think it's a quarterback who overstayed by probably 1 year, maybe even 2. But if you look at his last year, this was 2020 season, throwing 21 TDs, 22 picks. That's still obviously the interception numbers can be high in our league. So that's still a respectable stat line. He still threw for 3,600 yards, which, is still a really good year. This year, though, less than 2,000 yards, a 10-17 TD to INT ratio. It's not getting it done. And, I think maybe if you look at the sack totals from 2020 of 54 sacks last year, I'm going to guess that maybe that had something to do with his lack of confidence in the pocket this year. But I think that the Steelers really, to be fair, I don't think that they are a complete team, or as complete a team as they were, back when Jim won the the Super Bowl a few years ago. They're not running the ball well. Less than 100 yards on the ground per game with Le'Veon Bell. So I think, again, at the end of the day, Roethlisberger is going to go down as a phenomenal quarterback, one of the best of all time. But he was probably, overstayed his welcome by 1 year. Frankly, I would be surprised if he doesn't just fully retire after this year. That's aside from what the Steelers actually decide.
Yeah, as a 39-year-old quarterback, it's always tough, especially when the roster around you is kind of breaking down, while you're breaking down as well. It's not like he has a bunch of young guys he can throw the football to. Le'Veon Bell's getting to that age. Antonio Brown. It's definitely time for Big Ben to hang him up. I hope he can kind of right the ship here and put together a decent end of the season. But I think what I'll remember Ben most for is that 2018 season, season 10, I believe it was, when he came out, or season 11 it might have been, he came out and threw for 5,000 yards. Quarterback rating 119, 40 touchdowns. That was a huge year for them and the Steelers. But as far as overall, he's up there. It definitely, like you said earlier, can't put him with the Brady, Montana, even Peyton Manning type guys. But he won a Super Bowl, had some great defenses, some great players around him, and he definitely will go down as one of the, one of those can't miss great quarterbacks that the XCFL and NFL have to offer. But let's go ahead and transition here to a much younger quarterback. We just got rid of this old guy. Now we're going to come right on up with the new kid on the block. It is my guy from the Buffalo Bills, Leonard Carrington, also known as LC7. So, Justin, is LC7 the future for the Buffalo Bills?
I mean, I would think he has to be, right?
Yeah.
First of all, he's got a nickname. So if you're that young and already have a nickname, you're doing pretty well. Yeah, I mean, his stats, I'm just kind of looking over his stat line this year. 70% completion, 3,600 yards, and he's obviously, we're not even done yet. 26 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 115.7 rating. That is a all-pro stat line in our league. I know the passing stats seem to be up a little bit overall, but I mean, that is getting it done, conversely to what we talked about with Big Ben.
Yeah, he's doing all this with a 28-year-old Dante Moncrief, a 29-year-old Jordan Matthews, a bunch of no-name receivers after that, Gerald Everett at tight end. Running backs have been banged up all year. It's a rebuilding team, and they weren't supposed to compete at all this season. And Carrington, they had Cam Newton on the roster to start the year. Carrington, they took him in the second round. I believe he was the 26th pick in the second round. So, I mean, it was kind of a project quarterback out of Texas. He split time in college. But now he kind of flipped the script on him. They were able to trade Cam Newton away, and Carrington was able to take over this job full time. He's won AFC Offensive Player of the Week twice, Week 7 and Week 8, putting up huge weeks. He's 6'2", 217, so he's not your prototypical, strong arm quarterback.
And he's only 88 throw power.
Yep. And then you look at the speed, the mobility, 88 acceleration, 85 speed, 88 agility. He can move, man, and he's been fun to watch so far. I keep saying it's the LC7 experience, kind of like that Mike Vick experience, where he just, you watch him play and he just impresses you. But speaking of the Cam Newton situation here, we're going to go ahead and pull up the stats with Newton and then Carrington next to each other. You can see with Cam Newton in his time in Buffalo, it was not pretty. They won only 5 games, lost 12, where you can see the difference with Carrington. Now I think he's up to 6-6, 6-7, with a much higher QBR, and then 3,210 total yards. His touchdown to interception ratio is way better. What's the biggest difference between Cam Newton and Carrington, and why couldn't Cam get it done in Buffalo?
Well, I think Cam is, although he's not Big Ben old, he is aging. But really overall, if you look at his attributes, they are overall still much better than Carrington. But I think that maybe, this is a case of sometimes as a user, you pay more attention to your reads with quarterback who isn't as good or maybe isn't as experienced, because you look at some of the older guys like, your Cam Newtons, your Phillip Rivers back when Nick Z had him a few years ago. These are guys that have obviously, you have a level of confidence in that you think you can go out and sling the ball around. And often what ends up happening is that touchdown to interception ratio goes way down because you're overconfident in your ability to make passes. With a younger QB or just a worse overall QB, what you often see is that, the tendency is to make better reads. And, I've been guilty of it even in the past, is making better reads with my backups than I do my starter. And I think that probably, I think it is a testament, though, to our Bills owner that he's able to, kind of reinvent his game a little bit, or maybe not reinvent, but just to kind of perfect his game and to go out and say, you know what, I'm not going to throw interceptions with this dude, and just let his arm do the talking.
Yeah, he's definitely found success in the XCFL, putting together some wins. And, he's got 2 more first-round picks with the Buffalo Bills this upcoming draft. So, they're going to get more talent around this guy. They're building up the defensive side of the football. Carrington is, what he's done this year has been special. He's been fun to watch. He's got the little dreadlocks flowing out of the back of his helmet while he's running around back there, sometimes running for his life. But overall, the biggest takeaway for me is you're able to ship out Cam Newton, who you're paying big-time money, and bring in a guy on a second-round draft pick rookie contract for the next 4 years. That gives you a ton of cap flexibility going into free agency in the offseason to, surround your young quarterback, kind of like the Seahawks did. They were able to build up the defensive side of football for, Russell Wilson when he was on that rookie deal, that third-round pick rookie deal. I see a lot of Russell Wilson and Carrington, actually, now that I bring that up. But Carrington's done special things in Buffalo. I'm looking forward to watching him. I'm a big fan. Like you said, he's got a nickname in his rookie season. Not many guys can say that. But
now, can he live up to it in his sophomore season?
Yeah, the sophomore slump. We don't want to see it. But it's anyone's division down there in the AFC, and I think Buffalo will be competing for that division next season with the Dolphins as well as the Jets, and who knows what the Patriots.
And just a quick shout out to that division has gotten incredibly better over, as we were able to add some good users.
Yep.
That division was pretty weak, truthfully, for a while, and the Patriots were kind of just running away with it every year, and it has absolutely changed. It's a good division to watch.
Yeah, I think the first 2 seasons, 7-9, and then 8-8 won the division.
Yeah, that's not good.
Not. They were kind of the punching bag in the AFC. And
the Rams were actually looking to relocate to Massachusetts.
The Rams should have. Anyways, we'll go ahead and move on here to our next segment. We are lucky enough to have our resident XCFL draft guru, Mickey Thompson, on the show with us. Mickey, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, guys. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here, Brandon and Luke. Looking forward to doing quite a few of these with you guys.
Oh, yeah. Definitely looking forward to having you on. You are the man with the plan. You've been watching all the college games, all the pro days, every little bit. The combine coming up here at the end of the season. Mickey, what's been the highlight of your season so far? And anybody that sticks out to you before we get into your draft board?
Well, the first thing that sticks out, highlight, of course, is joining the XCFL, working with you guys. Looking forward to it. Looking at the college guys, I've done this a long time, high school kids, watching them go to college. I have a good understanding of what these guys are when they're ready to hit the pros. So I'm interested and looking forward to getting involved in the talent that the XCFL has to offer when it comes to these drafts.
As far as the draft class as a whole this season, are you seeing any strengths, any weaknesses throughout the class as a whole?
Well, I've gotten a late start here at the XCFL, so with that being said, I haven't had enough time to see everybody that I'd like to see. You have the All-Star game coming up, you have the Combine coming up soon too, so I'm really going to get a good look at those guys then. But first round's got a lot of talent. Second round, not so much talent. Third round, I haven't gotten too far into that. And of course, the fourth round, I'm still looking at. But for that first round that everybody's looking for, there's guys there. So for you guys that don't have any first round picks, you need guys, I suggest you get in the first round.
Oh boy, you know how we all love our first round picks. Well, you've been kind of putting together the draft board, the big board for us. We're just going to take a look at your top 10 here. We're going to pull up the graphic. I'm going to let you kind of take it away here and break it down, then we'll kind of ask you a couple questions afterwards. So go ahead and take it away, Mickey T.
Sure, thank you very much. I appreciate it. The top 10 that I combined it here was a look at guys that right off the bat, as soon as I jumped into the seat, took over as the quote-unquote draft guru of the XCFL, This could change. It's possible. But for the most part, these are the guys that you want to look at right now, pre-combine. Number one, you got Ben Sutherland, the quarterback out of UAB. He's a West Coast style quarterback. I see him going somewhere in the middle rounds, possibly earlier if the quarterback is needed. He's a young quarterback. He's quite tall. He's 6'2". He's got B grades all over the place. Throwing power, running power, or throwing on the run, and short throw accuracy. Like I mentioned, he's a West Coast style quarterback. He's young. He's got good height. Overall, pre-combine grade, I give him a B+. At number 2, Brent Patterson, left outside linebacker, Ohio State. He's a prototype player, so he's going to be quick to the ball. I see him going maybe the lower first round. He's an older guy. He's 24, and that's probably what hurts him a little bit. I say older, 24, I mean kid. But when you're looking at these guys, you want young, talented guys. You want the youngest guy possible because you want to be able to develop him and develop him quick so he's still young and able to play. Moving on, his hit power, that's where it's at. He's got good tackling and good block shed. So he's definitely a leader on defense. He's got good size. And like I said, he's a prototype outside linebacker. So he hopefully will have the speed to fit the mold. Overall, pre-combine grade, I give him a B+. Number 3, Brian Erickson, middle linebacker from Clemson. He's a 3-4 style tackler. He's also a lower first round type of draft player. He's 22 years old, 6'1", 236 pounds. He's got a grade A- tackle, a B+ hit power, and a B+ pursuit. In my opinion, he could hit, he could tackle, he could pursue. He's young, he's good size, he's a good fit for your defense. I suggest you pick him because he's going to go early. Pre-combine grade, another B+ here. At number 4, O.C. Stevens, left end, Florida State. He's a 3-4 style tackler. Again, he's a low round, first round guy. He's 22 years old, so he's still young. He's 6'1", 236 pounds. Finesse is a B+, his pursuit is a B, his block shedding is a B-. He's a speed rusher, so that's good for a left end. You want a guy that can get to the ball from off the line from the outside. He's young, and like I mentioned, he gets to the ball. So if you're looking for a guy like that, that's the guy you might want to look at come combine time. At number 5, Spencer Blevins. I've had a tough time with this guy's last name. He's a left tackle out of Ole Miss. He's a pass blocker. He's going to go early because he's a pass blocker, and he's probably one of the only good offensive linemen in the draft, besides another center I see out there. But pass blocking, he's a B+. Impact block, he's a B. Run block, he's a B. Bottom line here, he's a B. Everywhere. Go and get him. That's my point. He's a pass blocker. He's young. He's a skilled blocker for his size. At number 6.
Hold on, real quick, Mickey. Let's break down the top 5 a little bit real quick, just so we can kind of get some extra thoughts on these guys. I have a couple things. Ben Sutherland, the quarterback out of Auburn. To me, from what I've been hearing from my other XFL insiders, it seems like he is the only quarterback that has that first round grade. Do you tend to agree with that, or is there anybody else that can compete with that top quarterback spot?
Right now, from what I've seen, he's the guy. Ben Sutherland is the quarterback right now in the draft that everybody's looking at. There's a few other guys I'm hearing too from some of the sources that I have from around the colleges and such that I've worked with over the years. So right now, like I said, looking at it and at the top 10, this is definitely a guy that has potential. Combine scores and grades are what we're looking for. Then we'll know.
Yep. So the big board obviously is all based off talent and everything, not necessarily who you think will go first in the first or second or third in the draft. But I mean, looking at these 10 guys, is there somebody that sticks out to you that is that right now that can't miss number 1 overall draft pick?
I'd have to go with probably a guy that's unmentioned, or are you talking about the guys just in the top 5?
Probably. I mean, we can go top 10 here.
I'd have to say, off the bat, just thinking about it, would have to be Chris Gatewood. I mean, I've seen this guy since I've gotten here. He's been on my board from the beginning of time. There's also another guy too, which a lot of people might not have seen, and he's an outside linebacker or a left end. I believe he had some trouble in school. We'll see if he shows up at the combine. I can't think of his name right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see within the top 10 that you have on here, we got 3 linebackers, we got 3 defensive ends, and then a defensive tackle. It's a very heavy defensive draft. Justin, any questions you have for Mickey right here on the top 10?
Yeah, Mickey, I was just going to ask you, man, like if you had to pick somebody, like let's say you were an XCFL owner and you had to pick somebody, what would the guy be that, maybe not the number 1 overall can't miss, but what's the guy that you think is maybe, and obviously we're talking about the top 10 here, so really there's probably no true sleeper, so to speak, in here, but what's the guy that maybe people are overlooking?
In the top 10, these guys, it's hard to tell. I mean, to be honest, they're all great players. I mean, I don't want to slight anybody. At this point, for me, to be really honest, it's too early to tell that there's a guy out there right now that this is the go-get guy. But, again, I have to go back and point my finger at the middle linebacker. In my top 10 list, Chris Gateward. I mean, this guy, he's got everything, in my opinion. He's a great tackler. He fits the position well. He could stop the run. The only questionable thing about him right now would be his coverage.
Yeah, I mean, he's coming out of Stanford, 23 years old, 6'2", 251 pounds. He was a tackling machine. He's a 3-year starter at Stanford. It's like you have Brian Erickson up there at number 3 at Clemson. Both of these guys were tackling machines in college, and I think they'll both be great fits for any XCFL team. But the guy that really sticks out to me is the defensive end out of Nebraska, Harvey Himes. Himes is a beast, and he's somebody that's just kind of, you go see a game, 6'6", 251, and he's only 22 years old. And for a guy that's 6'6", 251, man, is he fast around the edge. He can play outside linebacker. He can play, pass rush outside linebacker. He can play that pass rush in D end. Not quite big enough to slide into D tackle, but I mean, the swim moves, the bull rush, he's just an all-around stud. But Mickey, we are you have to get on here or move on. We do appreciate you stepping on with us, and we definitely look forward to having you on again with a more updated version of your draft board. Thank you so much for stepping on, my man. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on. And of course, the more I get into this, the more information you can see and hear from me. So just hang in there. I'm going to get you guys set up this night.
Absolutely. We appreciate that, man. We will see
What you can do is go ahead and send that directly to the Rams front office.
No problem.
All righty. Well, that is our XCFL draft guru, Mickey Thompson. We are going to slide on here to our next segment, the Extra Point mailbox. This is all the mail we've received from some listeners, XCFL fans around the league. So, Justin, let's go ahead and get right into question number 1. It is from Barry in Los Angeles, California. And Barry says, what is the toughest division in the XCFL this season? Do you want to take that one away first?
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I think that obviously we have a number of good divisions in the XCFL. I think when you look at the overall, the measure of tough, you have to look, top to bottom, obviously, because anybody that's kind of got somebody in there that's, you look at the AFC East, you got 2 6-7 teams and a 3-10 team. That's just not going to cut it. You got a 5-8 team and an 0-13 in the AFC West. That's not cutting it. So really, like when I look at it, I look at who's the division that has the last place team with the most wins, and actually, the AFC South is, Sean is having actually a decent year at 5-8, and he's still in the cellar because he's got the Titans and the Texans at 9-4, both in playoff contention. The Jags at a solid 11-2, which should really pretty much about have that division wrapped up, barring any unforeseen circumstance. So, I'd say that's probably the toughest top to bottom. But then obviously you got to throw in the NFC East into there as well, because you have, Jack and Josh at the top, and Zethius actually with a huge turnaround year, going 7-6. Had a really good year going. I think he was 5-1 or 6-1 at one point. He's had some struggles, But those two to me, I think in the AFC it's the South, and in the NFC I'd say it's the West. I'm sorry, the East.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. The only thing I would say, the AFC North to me might contain the two best teams the AFC has to offer as far as going up against the elite competition and knocking out, taking each other out. But top to bottom, like you said, is the AFC South that has four very talented teams. But if you match the Browns and the Ravens up against, the Jags, the Texans, the Titans, I don't think the Jags or the Texans can beat the Ravens or the Browns. I do think Yost and the Titans has a chance. He has beat them before in the playoffs. But we will get to see the Texans play the Ravens in a few weeks, and I'm really excited about that because that'll give us a little insight about what those two teams are looking like. But, Barry, thank you so much for your question. We're going to move on to our next question here, and it is from Thomas in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Thomas wants to know, is it too early to call Panthers' #1 overall draft pick, quarterback Daniel West, a bust? Luke, go ahead and take that one away for us.
Oh, man. I don't know that you can call him a bust quite yet. I don't think he's in, Ryan Leaf territory or anything. I do worry that obviously, he doesn't seem to be getting better. He actually seems to be getting worse or staying flat, staying stagnant. Looking at his stat line here, 62%. It's not bad. It's not great. 13 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. That's probably just bad reads more so than anything. Mm-hmm. He's averaging more than 200 yards a game, an 80.1 passer rating. I don't think he's a bust yet. I think that he still has a lot of potential. And let's be honest, the dude is a 96 throw power, 82 deep, 82 medium, 83 short. This guy can still sling it. So let's not call him a bust just yet until we maybe see Coach Phil down there in Carolina. Maybe he tries to surround him with some better weapons, and suddenly Daniel West has a Jared Goff type second year where he comes out and he's able to actually move the ball around, meaning the real Jared Goff, not my Jared Goff. But, comes out and has a good sophomore season.
Yeah, that we've seen this, time after time. Matthew Stafford in Detroit. These first-round picks, obviously they're going #1 overall because they're the most talented player in the draft, and then they're going to the team with the #1 overall pick, which is typically the worst team in the league. So, he comes in as #1 wide receiver is Curtis Samuel. He's a glorified running back from Ohio State, switch wide receiver. Christian McCaffrey's got 47 catches on the year, a lot of checkdowns, but he really doesn't have that #1 receiver. Greg Olson's 45 years old. Kelvin Benjamin runs a 5-flat 40. He doesn't have much talent in Carolina, like you mentioned. So I think once they can kind of build around this guy, it was definitely a great pick, and I would never call this guy a bust after his first season. But we'll go ahead and see what year two has for Daniel West. He's got the scheme down a little bit. Coaching staff staying in place, so hopefully he can put together a decent sophomore season, like you said. But Thomas, thank you for your question. We're going to go right along here to question number 3, and it is from Jerome in Las Vegas, Nevada. He says, QB Nash York has been balling with Derek Carr sideline with an injury. Carr turns 31 next season and is due $27.1 million. Any chance we see the Raiders move on from Derek Carr?
Oh, good question. Maybe. I don't know yet because they have this young guy, Nash York, that's sitting out there. He's 6'6", 231. He's kind of a development project. He's only 23 years old. Carr is aging, obviously, but I don't know because, I'm looking at Carr's stat line here, and it's still relatively good. He's only at 64% completion, but, 92.4 rating. He's a 16 to 15 touchdown to interception ratio. But, then I look down at this York. He's 12 to 3 touchdown to INT ratio, averaging, not quite as many yards per game. So obviously he's maybe relying a little bit more on the run game to get that set up. But passer rating of 135. I don't know. At this point, maybe you say, hey, Derek Carr we can still maybe move him for something and get, something in return. I forget his contract. I apologize.
$27 million next season.
Is he?
That'll be that'll be the last year he's on contract.
So maybe, I don't think anybody's obviously going to pick him up. So maybe you do cut him. Maybe you even look at drafting a quarterback in using a first-round pick to try to get him. I don't think that Derek Carr is done, though. I think that Derek Carr will find his way into a new home on a new team next year, but it ain't going to be for $27 million.
Yeah, he's going to be 31. His arm strength is still there, and I mean, we're seeing quarterbacks now, play 39, 40 years old. So I think Carr definitely has 5-6 good years left in him.
Absolutely.
Will it be in Oakland? I'm not sure, but I also don't know if Nash York is really the answer. I think this is just a Raider fan that's kind of getting fed up with Carr getting hurt and sidelined with injury, so he's kind of just jumping the gun a little bit, seeing what else they got on their roster.
Well, and I think ultimately you have to look at. Doss has had a pretty good roster. I mean, he has built his team the way that he wants it. Yep. But in the playoffs, he just hasn't been able to get over that hump. And I think that, like you said, maybe the Raiders fans they're probably a bit frustrated with Carr, and probably just expressing those frustrations in the terms of time for him to go. But I don't think that it's necessary, but at $27 million, I mean, I'd cut damn near anybody for $27 million.
Well, Jerome, thank you for your question. We appreciate it. We got one more question, so we're going to round it out here, and it is from Steven from San Antonio, Texas. He says, with the Cowboys dropping back-to-back games to NFC playoff teams, meaning the Lions and the Redskins, are you buying or selling a three-peat for the Cowboys? Luke, what do you got for me?
Ooh. Well, our friend Josh across the pond might not be happy with it, but I'm gonna sell the three-peat. I don't think that it's gonna happen. I think he's first of all he's been gifted with, obviously, that offensive line is just silly good. So he's had a leg up the last few years, but they are aging a bit. They're still. Most of them are still, on the kind of the back end of their prime. But I just think there's a lot of good teams. The NFC is so loaded. And actually, to his credit, he's been able to run through an NFC that is that loaded. As you and I both know, playing in the NFC, it's tough to win. I think the Falcons are going to challenge for that spot. Watching, I know it got disconnected, but watching that team go from 33-10 to tying the game, to sending it to OT and getting the ball back like right before a DC'd. I mean, that's an incredible, ability to put points on the board in a hurry. You look at Jack in the East as well. I mean, honestly, Josh may not even win his division. He's in a dogfight there. So I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say I'm selling it.
Yeah, I'm gonna sell it as well. Like you said, there's just way too many teams that want a piece of the Cowboys. He's been able to run through those top powerhouses in the NFC, the Lions, the Lions, Redskins, Falcons, Seahawks, all those guys. And I think it's time that these guys are just sick of it. I mean, Jack came out with the Redskins and finally won his first game against the Cowboys. The Falcons have played the Cowboys close every single time and kind of let a few get away. The Lions finally beat them. It's what he's been able to do the last two seasons. It's never been seen in the XCFL because nobody has ever won back-to-back championships. There's a lot of parity amongst the winning, the top teams winning. Everyone, no one wins back-to-back. But a three-peat, I just don't see that happening. Because if he does get through the cycle of the NFC, if he gets through all those other tough teams, then he's got to go across and either play, the Ravens, the Browns, the Texans, the Titans, whoever comes out, the Raiders, whoever comes out of the AFC. And it's not going to be an easy game. So, yeah, no chance for the Cowboys with the three-peat. They got to just enjoy their two-peat and then go right back. They'll trade Zeke, and Dak's going to not resign, and it's going to be all right again in the XCFL world.
We just went from, them finishing second to, complete chaos in Dallas.
I don't know. I'm hearing lots of rumors. Zeke's being shopped around. He's been banged up the last few years. I just saw Dak Prescott's name mentioned in some of the on the block trade chat. You never know what next season will hold for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, for the record, I know Zeke's being shopped, but real quick, I'm looking at his roster here, and he's got a 23-year-old halfback named Julian McFoy, who's 94 speed, 90 acceleration, and 89 carry. So let's not pretend like the well is dry there either.
Yeah, they still have the offensive line, which is what Dallas Cowboys we've been known for since the start of the cycle. So, oh boy. Well, thank you very much for all the questions. That ends our mailbox segment there. And that's going to do it for our show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the first one, so we're going to get better and better each time. Hopefully I'll stop calling Luke Justin, and we can kind of get that figured out.
I don't know who the character is.
Yeah, I don't either. I've never heard of him before. I think it's some shitty Rams owner.
He's super attractive and successful.
Oh my God. But XCFL fans, thank you for tuning into our new show, The Extra Point. Like I said, hopefully this is a bi-weekly thing and we can keep spitting these out to you guys. If you have topics you want discussed, if there's rumors, anything going on, make sure to hit up one of our XCFL insiders. Get at us on Twitter, whatever it is, and we can get you or your team or another team you might have questions about featured on the next show. We're going to get a lot of the other XCFL insiders on along the way, hopefully a couple coach interviews. And it should be a pretty cool show with some pretty cool storylines to carry us into the playoffs and carry us through the rest of the Madden 18 cycle. But I am Brandon Hill. I'm your host, and my co-host, Luke Parsons. Luke, thank you very much for joining me. It's always fun.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we'll see you next time, XCFL.
Peace.